For everything else, you should just take a break and come back to us later, okay? Oh, gosh, I bet you're the kind of person who keeps 500 tabs open too, huh? Not as much on my computer, but my phone, literally yesterday or the day before, I had to spend like a solid hour, 30 minutes to an hour, closing tabs on multiple web browsers. Um, there has to be a better way to organize them. Please don't do that. It's a yeah. Hey, I saw a few other interesting titles as well. So I'm gonna do another randomizer thing just because I struggle with choices sometimes. So I have 6 titles. I'm just gonna do 1 through 6 again. 1 through 6. 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Kaschei. Okay, perfect. So I believe this is from the same team that did probably one of my favorite visual or read along kind of little short story things on itch.io so far. I'm pretty sure either they or they and somebody else or a team did a title called Tear Ripple, and that is it's a very I think it is probably a very um, widely regarded as what? How am I trying to say this? I'm struggling to find. I'm like struggling because I think I admire these writers a lot. Is just what I'm trying to say, and the way they present things, like the tone and atmosphere of Tear Ripple is extremely memorable, and it's one of the few things that I sort of come back to from time to time and reread, and that doesn't really happen a lot with like things in general for me. Like I don't tend to revisit books or games or shows or anything of that nature that often. Um, but yeah, anyway, I'm very excited for this one. But okay, this is um, Kaschei, maybe. This is Kaschei. Anyway, Eileen. Oh, you've created a new Renpi. Oh. Once you add a story, pictures, and music, you can release it to the world. Help. Okay, so this is one of those kind of things. Hello. Hello? Hello? Is someone there? What's up? Weirdest thing, but I heard a noise coming from the basement room. Oh, I hope it isn't mice. I don't think so. It sounded almost like, well, a streamer. Human. Oh. Like someone was asking for help. Help? Come on, help me open this door. What? Have you lost it? We're not supposed to go down there, you know. Yeah, but I know what I heard, okay? If I don't at least check, I'm going to feel bad about it for the whole day. It'll nag at you that badly, huh? Yeah. Okay, then fine. Hey. Oh my god. See, I was right. Hey, can you hear me? Get some water or something. It's okay. Look, they're waking up. Come on, let's grab them and move them upstairs. This is just what happens every time they get someone that clicks on the help menu. Are you sure? What if they need a doctor or it's impossible to know for sure in this darkness? Let's just move into light here and hit them with like a 200-page text document full of like weird code. Oh, there we go. Are we in a library or like a Barnes and Nobles? Not the most comfortable chair, but poor thing. Can't you speak? They're just looking at us. I kind of like what they're doing here, I think. like if I'm reading this correctly, not the text, but the art, the character designs, it feels like it is probably trying to address or comment on the influence of like early 2000s or like 2000s to mid 2010s like anime visual novels, and how their characters all just kind of look like that. And then here we have, I would say these two art styles share similarities, but they are distinct in certain ways, and I kind of like what they're doing here. It almost feels like it's bridging like genres or mediums together, and I don't want to say in like a singularity kind of way, but especially in the context of like a library with like every genre imaginable, or not every, but a lot of genres. I think that is probably what they're going for here. Anyway, they're just looking at us. Yeah, they're just looking at me, just like yapping about random stuff. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe they can understand. This could be the case, honestly, or locked in syndrome. Maybe. Now you're scaring me. I'm gonna go and call someone. I mean, maybe they fell and really hurt themselves or something. Okay, that's probably a good idea. Why is there a basement in the library? Well, I guess that's not that weird. Should I stay here? That makes sense to me. Just, yeah? Come back quickly, okay? Don't leave me here. Of course, I promise. I also like what happened there. It almost feels like this scene is sort of like shifting the perspectives or the POV of the reader in like a very like kind of quick but very like subtle sort of way, where I mean just like a few lines ago, like around here, it definitely feels like they're speaking to like the reader, me or you, the reader, and then here it almost feels like you're switching back into the role of these characters, either Eileen or Augustina. I kind of like, I feel like these are very seasoned, or at least writers that really appreciate a lot of different genres, and I think probably ways of writing, and probably are sort of into like the meta narrative kind of aspect, or like metafiction or that kind of thing, a little bit here to there. But I also feel like they're cautious of that genre as well, and don't want to like tread too far into that area because it just becomes like a nothing burger at that point. So, well, maybe you're just like this. Wow, a character that finally sees me for who I am. Just like a dork. Oh, that too. Selective mutism. You don't seem to be in pain or anything. Wait, I have an idea. Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this before? Okay, if you can hear me, go into the options menu and turn the voice volume down to 0. Okay. I'll be waiting for you until you do. Aha! So you can understand me fine at least, even if you can't talk. Hey, what's that in your pocket? I feel like they were about to prank me or something. You've got a paper. Oh, Lori. Is that your name? I guess it's a name, so that's what I'll call you for now, okay? And... Huh? It says Kaschei here? That sounds familiar. That's a book, right? I swear I've seen something with that title before. This is me earlier reading Midnight Heist, and they mentioned the term Varrock, because in Midnight Heist, the characters were going to try to carry out a heist involving like a butterfly brooch or something, and then they mentioned that it was in the city of Varrock or something, and then that like unlocked a core memory from from a while ago, and I was like, that has to be from something. So I looked it up online, and it's like, yeah, there is a museum in RuneScape in the city of Varrock, and yeah, that's why that's still there. If anybody was wondering. Anyway, I swear I've seen something with that title before. Um, this is a library. If you didn't realize, I work here. You know what? Since you seem fine, I'm gonna go and find that book for you. I think we need more characters in fiction or visual novels or things like that that are like archivists. Like archivist characters, or the archivist like archetype. Um, I think that would be uh, more interesting for a lot of read-alongs or visual novel type stuff. Anyway, it'll only be a minute. I don't know how you reached this place, but surely it must have been to find that book, yeah? To read Kaschei. If I'm gonna have to like go through like the files to, or like inspect Element or whatever on their website, on their like page, to like go through this like elaborate Rube Goldberg style thing. Um, what if it's like cache? What if it has something to do with like your browser cache or something? I don't know. Anyway, it'll only be a second. About me. Oh, that freaked me out. How did they do that? I'm honestly a little bit terrified of people that are like really good with computers and coding. Okay, you are here. Is that the moon? Or maybe that's just like another galaxy. I don't know. Okay, I'm Myra. This is my personal little space on the net. Welcome and enjoy your stay. That is like the default sort of welcome intro for like NeoCities type internet spaces. New blog. Hey, I recently moved web providers and figured I might as well redo this whole site while I'm at it. It's still a work in progress, but they'll still be around. Okay. I always check the about page. Oh wait, this is the about. Your humble host and web mistress. 2000 style design, fruitager arrow, old internet history in general. I saw a really interesting, because I have a mutual online and they retweeted something regarding like the design documentation for fruitager arrow and how it was like a carefully sort of put together and marketed sort of internet aesthetic in a way that's sort of now culminated in like very overpriced merchandise that have like the fruitager arrow kind of theme to it. um maybe I'll try to see if I can find that document again, but it was a really interesting thing. It almost looked like a case study of how to spawn like internet aesthetics, um, and then have them like inevitably culminate in some sort of like weird nostalgia filled uh, yearning thing that's really like nostalgic for something that was like pretty recent, all things considered, but again sort of leading to like a weird merchandise thing or like an Etsy shop that happens to like sell a lot of themed things of that nature. Anyway, music, TMBG, I don't know what that is. Tolly Hall, I've heard of them, but I don't know. Jane Remover, I've listened to some of their mixes. Laura Lex, is that the 100 Gex thing? Lemon Demon, Cake, I like Talking Heads. Devo, Aj, Oingo Boingo, Glass Beach. Old school. Oh, what a coincidence. I was literally looking up an old school RuneScape video on Varrock earlier from another game, as referenced by another game. But anyway, Celeste. I've still never played Celeste. Minecraft. Melee, Doomsday, Dream Girl. I've never heard of Doomsday Dream Girl. What is that? Katamari Damacy, Parappa the Rapper. What is Acrylic Horizon? Did I just download it? Oh shoot. Okay, whatever. I'll check that out later. Maybe this is the move. This is the move to actually like get people to play your other games, or get people to play like games from your circle of game developers. You just start including like download links within your game. Anyway, home. Is that it? I think that's it. Let's go back to this. Hey, you've left the game open for quite a while. Sorry. Just close it if you're going to do something besides use the computer, right? The computer and websites break. Hold on. What? Where's my preferences? For everything else, you should just take a break and come back to us later, okay? Oh, gosh. I bet you're the kind of person who keeps 500 tabs open too, huh? Not as much on my computer, but my phone, literally yesterday or the day before, I had to spend like a solid hour, 30 minutes to an hour, closing tabs on multiple web browsers. There has to be a better way to organize them. Please don't do that. It's a yeah. Hey, are you bullying the players again? Ew. Oh, okay. Maybe you're supposed to play Acrylic Horizon? I'm guessing that's what you're supposed to do. But yeah, this is really creative so far. I almost feel like it's tempting to say that there's going to be a genre. I mean, there is already sort of a genre around this, where it's. I'm not even going to get into it. Never mind. Anyway, seeing it from afar, I could hardly ever expect to touch it. It was almost unnoticeable, hanging up there in the far reaches of the clouds. Still, from the very first moment I laid eyes on that sky, I thought of it as acrylic. Also, I really like the UI element here. I feel like they were playing around with the UI elements to start with, like in the base game, Kaschei. It was just very standard REMP kind of layout and bare bones. But now, after going through and downloading this one, in comparison, it has a lot more like style, I guess, or charm to it, or more of a specific kind of style or charm to it. So I mean, this definitely really feels like like the creators creating a sort of like space within their game, I guess the library, and then you picking out like titles within that space. Yeah, I commend them for doing that. It's a really neat idea and very simple but very effective. Anyway, a plastic sky. That was my very first impression of the town where I began my new life as my true self. I had decades and decades of false starts behind me now. After so long, I finally found something new. I took an hermetic oath, trading away my old self, my old life. In return, I would live in a new place, sealed off from the outside world. Not just metaphorically, but literally, the town was not only secluded, but sealed. A giant see-through cube had been embedded in its surrounding fields, swallowing the world. Oh. Okay. On cloudy days, you could see the seams where the edges would meet, like the sky had been pasted on a skybox. Not that we had many sunny days anyways. The sun had almost forgotten the town, just as everyone else had. This strange barrier may have seemed oppressive to some, but for whatever reason, I found it humorous. The thought of the rest of my 40-something-ish year lifespan playing out under a banner of synthetic polymer This reminds me a bit of like airspace laws when it comes to like places around the world. Anyway, the night I arrived in town, I opened my suitcase and cupped a peculiar object in my hands. I can scarcely remember it now. Almost all my old memories are long gone. Bits and pieces remained, dried and stuck to the corners of my skull. They were less like memories and more like visions. I couldn't identify anyone in them, not even myself. Except for one. There was one very last preserved memory, a scratched and beaten film strip that I was still able to self-identify with, somewhat anyway. Of someone? Something? And that was once me, all taped up with gauze on a hospital bed. My arm is outstretched, her arm is outstretched, reaching for a mother at her side. Past that veiny, spindly arm, balanced on the very tips of flexible, slender fingers. Also, I like what they're doing here as well. Is a small, tiny, cheap snow globe. I smile, hardly even able to see it from my position, much less shake it again. Glittery snow still settling down. She doesn't smile back. It's not obvious why. Maybe it doesn't amuse her, or maybe she's too worried about my/our condition to find this situation anything other than horrific. That's it. I can't see anything beyond that. I remember the feeling, the touch of the plastic, and look to the sky of town once more. It's not much different than a snow globe, after all. Oh. It's kind of neat. Wait, hold on. Can I go back to that? Kind of looks like the foundation. Like the roofing, maybe? Either like the roofing or like crane or something. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway. I came to the town by train, as did everyone else, under the transparent seal. No plane or automobile can reach this place. The old subway station, sitting near the edge of the wall, serves as the only entrance or exit. I can still remember the clamber of everyone rising out, climbing the stairs, the heat, the smell of pavement, roasted by the hot sun. She was waiting for me there, sitting on an iron bench nearby. I was soon wrapped in a tight hug, scented like floral perfume and chewing gum. She took off her sunglasses and smiled at me softly. Hi, I stammered out quietly. I was very awkward, but she was so patient with me. She looked so very beautiful then. The heat from her attention started to make me feel a little dizzy. To avoid embarrassing myself, I blamed it on the summer heat instead. She giggled. Maybe she noticed my lie, maybe she didn't, and forced me to sit down, fanning me with a beautiful red and gold paper fan. Slowly unwrapping sandwiches packed tight in brilliant metal foil, crisp slices of tomato peeking out of 2 plush slices of bread. I didn't realize just how hungry I was. I really like this writer. We talked for a little while, or writers, I don't know. We talked for a little while over our picnic lunch. She was mostly the one talking, to be fair. I focused on eating. Me. I took in the sights of the town for the first time, only half paying attention to her words. In the park nearby, the station was Revolution Square. Piled up high in the center, almost like an amalgam, were dozens and dozens of bronze statues in various states of disrepair and neglect. In rows and rows they alternated, concentric layers like a wedding cake, each segment distinguishable in age by its accumulated patina. Chunks of the pile showed repeated patterns. If you drilled into the entire structure like a geologist retrieving an ice core, you could look at the cutaway and see scientifically the popular aesthetic of each era. This is me in my little yap session earlier about like Frutiger era. Anyway, modernist abstract statues, stretched and warped, versus traditional, stately representations of men and women holding pens and quills. At the very top of the pile stood a single proud figure of bronze, a meek old woman with her hands clutching a book tightly to her chest, a dedication chiseled in a stone plaque, to a world free from the burden of memory. Oof. Her voice quickly snapped me back to attention. Wow, okay, there's a lot going on here. I'm going to take a sip of my tea. With the way things are going so far, I feel like this one, like Acrylic Horizon, like in the context of everything so far, I feel like Acrylic Horizon has a sort of like young adult dystopian survivalist sort of in-group out-group genre kind of thing going on for it, and I think the creators are aware of that, and I feel like I feel like this is viewed in the the lens. I don't really like saying that, but viewed in the lens of like this being a book within the library of Kaschei, or the library within the visual novel titled Kaschei. And there is a sort of like a distancing effect, I think, where it feels like I'm sort of like picking apart aspects of like the young adult visual novel, like young adult novel genre, specifically like elements that make it so engrossing and compelling for a lot of readers and very marketable, I guess, as cynical as that sounds. And also, well, I also feel like that genre is a little bit about like kind of like preempting a lot of people about like things either to come or that are like actively happening already, but it just needs to be like framed or put in a setting that seems very distant to make it digestible, if that makes sense. I think the closest thing I can think of is like something like Star Wars, maybe, where, for example, like the lightsabers, to me they remind me of like flashlights, and sometimes I think about flashlights and how the introduction of flashlights whenever they were invented and like widely distributed must have been quite like kind of significant, and being able to direct like a beam of light towards anything is quite a significant shift, I think, especially for the time. And so I feel like, to me at least, Star Wars had to like sort of take a lot of like the technology that was being rapidly introduced to a very large population and contextualize it as like a sci-fi kind of setting thing, in order for like the current technologies of that day to be more like easily digestible in the psyche of like the populations of those areas, if that makes sense. I think this happens now even to this day, where a lot of like emergent technologies, usually from like the military sector, that kind of like trickle down into civilian use, has to like be packaged along with like movies or like sci-fi movies or something like that, or like dystopian, or like just movies that have like a very out there kind of presentation to them, in order for like a lot of people to like soak in or like reconcile with the idea that there's a lot of like very complicated and sophisticated technology constantly like at play in the modern day, I guess. Anyway, that was a very long tangent. Sorry, I don't mean to like detract from the authors or the developers when I'm like on these weird tangents. To me, it is more. This is gonna sound so self-serving and dumb, but to me, it is a good sign if I'm like yapping and like going on really random tangents about stuff in the middle of like a visual novel or a game, because it's like anyway, enough of that. Her voice quickly snapped me back to attention. For the first few days, she chided, it's best not to do very much or worry too hard. I bit into my sandwich again, nodding. It was delicious. I knew her job was to take care of me. But still, it was so nice. I didn't think I would be doted on like this from the very start. I know you must have many questions now that you're in town proper. Things may start to seem a little bit strange to you, she exhaled. What's important is that you came to this town for a reason, right? I nodded with her in agreement. I was trying to look confident, but in truth, I was still a little scared. Seeing the dedication on the statue and knowing what was about to happen to me, even if only slowly, it was scary. They're doing this to me tomorrow? Sunlight sparkled brightly on the park. The light hurt my eyes a little, but she shielded me from the sun, pulling me close towards her chest. I swore before she grabbed me that the statue of the old woman had smiled at me. By the way, my taskbar color kind of matches the color scheme of this. Anyway, it had already started without me realizing she... Oh? The statuing? Does like everyone turn into statues here? It already started without me realizing. She pat my head gently, brushing away strange white clumps that had formed from the back of my head. They were scattered away to the wind, floating through the park like dandelion fluff. Dandelion fluff. Is that just like a nicer way of saying dandruff? Anyway, she plucked a single one out of the hair and held it in her hands to show it to me. These are your old memories, little one. Each one represents a piece of information from your old life, now meaningless and valueless. She had said it with sternness of an old school teacher, explaining something to a delinquent student. I wanted to cry a little. Okay, I think this might need to be like a separate part of video, just because I was like talking a lot randomly in the middle. Anyway, pulling me in closer, holding me tighter, but at the same time I could sense a bit of fear still remaining in her voice. I paid the same price too, long, long ago. She was wistful. I can't imagine what must have brought me here, but nevertheless. I wanted to try hard for her sake and mine. I wanted to show her that I wasn't afraid. We began our walk to the burned quarter. It was on the very opposite edge of the town, in a place where you could see one of the seams overhead, even in bright sunlight. I stood there with my mouth agape at destroyed buildings and scorched trees. Most of this town was abandoned at some point or another. The lucky ones who have completed their tasks get to lead simpler lives, she explained. Our job, however, is to clean and fill these spaces up with life again, so for now, we have to work a bit more. We approached a tall, stately house, blackened with smoke on the outside, half the facade almost caving in on itself. A small crowd of people outside waved us in, and I was soon carrying my luggage inside. It was an old building, but entering the foyer, I realized it wasn't in as bad a condition as the outside suggested. As we creaked up the stairs slowly, her tone changed a bit. I'm the matron of this house. My job is to look after everyone. That includes you, she smiled, and all the others that are new here. I muttered something in agreement, but she stopped suddenly, not finished, almost making me bump into her. Also, some of the people here also call me mother. It's kind of a stupid tradition tied to this house. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. I don't know what came over me, but I suddenly had an idea. I didn't catch my little stumble, and instead decided to bump into her on purpose. Oh, sorry. Turning to face me, she gave a knowing smirk, and we both laughed. I think that's a cute nickname. She blushed a little at that, but just as quickly raised up an eyebrow. It's not a nickname, it's my name. She paused for a second. What about yourself? If I'm the matron, then what's your name? I think one of the reasons why I like this writer / team of writers is that they do a very stellar, I guess, job at conveying believable, I guess, character dynamics and interactions set in very sort of like outlandish, almost sci-fi settings, but not quite. And maybe that is the thing. Maybe what's truly strange and alien in this type of scenario is the way that people are interacting with others, and not so much like the setting itself. Even though there are probably some pretty well, okay, anyway. The way she said it felt a little strange. I didn't realize why at first. I was still laughing and catching my breath until... Oh. She kept up her smile despite my fear. When children hurt themselves, you're not supposed to overreact. That's what makes them freak out, too. It felt a little bad to notice she was probably using the same tactic on me. It's okay. This town, as you know, has no need for memories of the past, so it has no need for names either. She laughed and continued walking up the stairs. Besides, what use is a name anyway? Also, another reason why I like this is because, like, the scene... How should I explain this? I think to compare it with another visual novel that I forgot the name of. Oh, Hanakari Experience, which I thought had some neat aspects about it, but that visual novel or that read-along experience literally described every single location and event in like excruciating detail, and I think that's fine if you're the type of person that just happens to be into that kind of thing. But it literally took, I think, nearly an hour for like the characters to go from like the train station to like the first starting off town area in that setting. And again, it's a different thing. I think there are visual novels that are more, or like read along things that are meant to be more of like a 40-hour experience kind of thing. I just think I prefer, at this moment, I prefer something like this. Not that it's an attention span thing necessarily. I also think it's just effective writing and kind of getting from point A to point B in interesting ways in ways that aren't literally just like, okay, they went from train station, then they went to town, then they went to front door, then they opened front door, then they went to staircase, then they talked at staircase for like 5 minutes, then they went up. It doesn't feel like it's as forced as that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It feels like everything flows very naturally, and that's very impressive. Anyway, at the very top of the house, in a turret poking out of the roof, was my new room. Just as I am the matron, she said, fiddling with her keys, your role will also become your name. For now, you'll be the caretaker. The door slowly creaked open. It was a small room, almost like an attic. Even with few memories from the past to compare it to, I knew it wasn't the nicest accommodation. Still, it was cozy and charming in its own way. For now, rest. Dinner will be soon, and then we'll talk more. I sat by the side of the bed, testing it. It was firm, but comfortable. I looked out the window. From this angle, I could just barely see the corner, the skybox within the sky. That was how I came to live in the town, how I took my first role as the caretaker, under the guidance of the matron of the rundown house. Oof. Oh, diagrams. Oh, is this like a fabric diagram? Oh gosh, it's pretty. I spun around twice in the mirror, admiring my silhouette, the way it was so wonderfully draped over me. I had never owned a dress like it before. So I guess there's probably like a seamstress in this setting as well, maybe. Not too fancy, not too plain either. An ash gray dress with a plethora of pockets on the front. A dress with pockets? No way. And sides. Polished, shiny brass buttons. Small garters were attached to both sleeves, if I ever needed to roll them up and keep them in place. It was at once both practical and beautiful. Yes, functional and ornamental and decorative. That is what I strive for too, in a lot of what I create. Anyway, I thought it'd be an appropriate gift for the caretaker. The material is nice and breathable too. Not that you'll be sweating that much though. I made a puzzled face. I figured the caretaker would have to do most of the cleaning, right? I pictured myself hauling around mops, rags, a cart full of solvents. I didn't mind that kind of work, to be honest. I found parts of it meditative and meaningful. Not exactly, no, or perhaps not yet. Here, I'll show you what you'll be working on for now. Interesting triangle composition. It was a tall, square building illuminated with strange signage in a language I couldn't identify. Inside, rows and rows of metal cabinets were stacked side by side, meant for books, but cut or refitted. Random items were stuffed inside each one, some of them almost bursting to capacity. Oh, I guess they're also a sort of like archivist kind of role, maybe. Why this is giving the giver, which is like if you know, you know. This, she explained, is the lost and found for now. You'll be manning the desk here. It might be a little boring, but we all take the worst jobs when we start out. She coughed a sickly cough, throat choked by stale air. It was a little unlike her, a small speck in her otherwise flawless appearance. I didn't make anything of it back then. Maybe I should have. Maybe they need to check for like hephaestus or asbestos or whatever it's called in the ceiling. Or like mold. You have an assistant, or like formaldehyde. I've been like weirdly worried about formaldehyde, mostly because like on the desk that I'm using currently, there's like a warning label sticker that says, this product can expose you to chemicals, including wood dust, which is known to cause cancer. So I was thinking about what to do recently. I might just end up trying to go for something else because, yeah, I don't really like the idea of inhaling like weird chemicals in shoddy like wood like furniture. Anyway, you have an assistant too. The janitor will help you out with categorizing whatever is brought here. It's traditional for all of the cleaning related roles to become acquainted with trash, she said, wiping her finger on a cabinet and examining the thick dust. The lost and found is kind of a match made in heaven for you two. Haha. So I forgot what happened in The Giver, but I feel like one of the main things about that book were like everyone's names were probably replaced with like the roles that they would the roles that they would take on in like the day-to-day functioning of things. I feel like that there is something like that here. Anyway, as if on cue, a woman appeared from behind a partition and gave me a polite bow. Hi, I'm the bower. You're both new to town, so there's no need to be shy around each other. She flashed a quick glance at her watch. I gotta get back to the house, so I'll leave you both to it. What exactly are we supposed to do? Don't worry about it. You're the caretaker, after all. What you do with these objects will be natural to you. Like riding a bike. Trust in your role. Maybe at like by the end of this like setting, then they start to like, then they get like their names, their personal name or whatever. And so it was that I took up the front desk role as lost and found with my partner, the janitor. Thanks. Don't mention it. A man in a brown cap walked by, laughing, patting his hands on his overalls, leaving with me something that I was still examining in my own hands. Oh, cool. A bright blue plastic slide viewer toy. I think we might have some slides for this kind of thing around here, somewhere, she said sheepishly. The janitor began to look through various shelves of garbage, but I stopped her just in time. Those corridors of objects seemed endless, and I worried that I might not ever see her again if she went deep in there. What should I do with this thing? I don't know, you're the caretaker. Just sort things out however you like. I've only been here a week, but that's what the last caretaker did. Okay. Placing the toy on an empty stretch of shelf, I returned to my desk, quickly shuffling papers around. The last caretaker, huh? What happened to the last caretaker? Caretaker? I don't know. Promotion, basically? She's doing something else now. I felt like an idiot child with no understanding of how anything at all worked. Oh, right, of course. My shoulder slumped. Tired already? She probably didn't mean it in an accusatory way, but even after a few days of work, I felt a little unease around the janitor. She was still new, but she clearly had a much better sense of how things worked here. And though it was understandable, it made me feel so naive, so stupid. The janitor role, I feel like it is interesting because it does allow you to like literally go around departments and places and kind of like get a glimpse at the behind the scenes of everything, essentially. Not really, I just, I thought I'd be doing something a little bit more meaningful here, that's all. I longed for the matron. I imagined how nice it would be to finish my shift here and see her at the house. The janitor laughed a little. I wanted to hate her, but I could tell she was just trying to break the ice. She did not care about me, I could feel it. And they find this stuff out there, you know, all this crap, in abandoned buildings, flowing in the river, and sometimes even in deposits underground. The town is constantly expanding and reclaiming its destroyed territory, and this garbage has a habit of showing up. She waved her arms around, gesturing at the cabinets frantically, to make her point. Sure, most of it is just trash, but we collect it for a reason. Oh? Each of these items here belonged to someone else once, someone from the outside. It's said that each item was important to them, very, very important. Oh, I see. I wondered how she could know all of this. My theory? Well, since you asked. Since we were abandoned by the world outside, maybe these objects were abandoned too. They turned up here because they're also trying to make a new life for themselves. I chuckled a little at that. Do you think we also have items? I mean, we were also from the outside, right? It was only meant as a bad attempt at small talk, but something sparkled in the janitor's eyes. She must really like this kind of talk, huh? I think so. Of course, we can't really remember what they are, so it's a bit of a moot point. She jokingly hit her head to accentuate her point again, but as she did, some white tufts of memory flew out of it. Oh, she kept smiling a big grin, unbothered, and I couldn't help but laugh at the surreal scene. And so that became my life in the town. Day by day, objects were brought into us, and we sorted them dutifully. I felt each one of them in my hands, wondering about their previous owners. Were they old, young, middle-aged? Did they have a family? What kind of life did they live out there, if they were even still alive? This is like reverse Amazon warehouse worker. I settled into my role, just as the matron said I would. I felt my con-like memories bleed out of my head like a bloody river, and over time my mind dissipated, which I accepted. Life in the town was not glamorous, but whatever had happened to me outside was long gone. I was protected, I was safe, I accepted it totally. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to separate this video into chunks. Hey, can you hear me? Oh, is this the character from the library? Lori, are you there? Hello. Can you come back to the library for a second? We'd like to talk to you. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, okay. Do I do the help? Hey! Gosh, you were really absorbed in that story. You know what it is as well? I almost feel like this is like a jump scare. Like, it's funny because there's the genre. Okay, I'll mention it. There's like Doki Doki Literature Club and stuff like that. And I know it was also inspired by like visual novels from Japan that sort of had like dark psychological twists and turns in the midst of like moe characters or whatever. But what's fun to me is that this feels like a basic kind of inversion, maybe, where I'm like jump scared by anime character, um, after reading like a very kind of like a pretty engrossing sort of setting and premise, and like the atmosphere and the visuals kind of cultivated from it, cultivated or presented or expressed, I guess, by it. Um, it is interesting because, yeah, like in those titles, you'd be like, you'd probably be like, you'd be with like, I guess, charming looking anime characters for hours on end, and then they'd pull out like gore or some like jump scare of like a grotesque looking thing. Um, but in this, it's like, well, I felt myself like a little bit jump scared by like anime anime kind of adjacent looking characters, set on a photograph of like a town's library or something. Anyway, this almost feels similar to yesterday where I was doing a reading of Angus Nice even or whatever, and I was like jump scared by a shape. I was like jump scared by like a very large orb. um, anyway, gosh, you were really absorbed in that story. You hardly noticed us come back at all. The doctor took a quick look at you and said you were fine. To be honest, I think he wasn't taking us seriously. I already, meh. I already knew Lori was fine though. Lori? Yeah, Lori. This is the shortened name, by the way. The entire name is something different. You can't just go around naming people. No, look at... Oh, I think they shortened it on purpose. Oh, I see. Ah, that's why you were looking so feverishly for that book. Mm-hmm. I didn't exactly find it, though. I did find this. Slavic Fairy Tales. Close. Seems like Laurie is way more interested in whatever they're reading now, though. What is it? An old book here. I forgot who wrote it. Kind of magical realism, slice of life stuff. That kind of thing was popular for a time. Yeah, so I think... Anyway. I can see that. Personally, I would characterize it more as like a young adult, semi-dystopian, in-group, out-group, basic social systems kind of genre thing. But I don't think anyone would describe them like that. Anyway, I can see that. If I was more depressed, I would probably relate a lot to this caretaker character. Caretaker. Oh, yeah. I'd say you're more like the janitor. To be honest, at this point, I feel like I relate a little bit more to the janitor. Like, as I was reading that, either to the mother character or to the janitor. I guess that's why I appreciate this visual novel so far. I feel like it's echoing a lot. Okay, this... No. I feel like I'm echoing a lot of what they're saying, essentially. And that's really impressive. I feel like the points... I wouldn't say like... I wouldn't say that this is like a challenging read, but it does sort of guide readers a little bit into considering things from like a slightly zoomed out perspective in terms of like genres. I've been seeing a lot more things on my like algorithms I guess lately regarding like category theory as well. Um, so it's interesting how that kind of coincides with this reading. I think a lot of people are, or some types of people are feeling like a very similar thing now. I think some people are tempted to term it like singularity kind of thing, but I don't think that's entirely accurate. I think it's something else a little bit. But anyway, really? Wait, are you making fun of me somehow? No, no, not at all. I just meant, okay, let's leave Lori a little alone for a bit. Okay, sure. Meanwhile, I want to sort this out between us. Hey, wait. Oh, by the way, I noticed you were using one of the computers. I left it on for you, so you can use it whenever you like, alright? Wow, okay. I think I'm gonna pause there. Because there's a lot to think about, or a lot to digest, sort of, in something like this. Not just. Well, okay, no, I don't think there's a lot to digest. I think. I think what I find interesting about this title so far is that it really feels like to be a lot of like digesting, so to speak, or like analysis is happening in the moment, and it sort of feels like it facilitates that somehow. I really like that, because sometimes I do admittedly get tired of just like going through a visual novel where you're just like reading lines over like lines continuously without like really I mean, I guess that's fine. I mean, there's like a time and place for everything, I guess, but uh I like this. I like this, and I think it's probably most evident by the way that I'm just like kind of feeling around of like how how I want to like express things, and like how I want to kind of like digest and absorb like the various like components, I guess, that are happening in this kind of thing. uh oh, hey, you've left the game open for quite a while. Just close it if you're going to do something besides use the computer, alright? The computer websites will break if the game isn't open, but for everything else, you should just take a break and come back to us later, okay? Yeah, you know what it is, also? I think, I've been saying you know what it is. I think the writers know their audience very well. Almost like scarily well. And that's really impressive. Because I think there are, for example, there is the type of person that there's like an overlap. There's like a basic Venn diagram overlap between type of person that keeps 500 tabs open, person that gets like recommended like meme or like category theory like stuff on their algorithmic feeds, and then or a person that happens to be into like meta narrative kind of fiction or nonfiction type of books or scenarios and things like that, and also just person that happens to be into like charming art styles and aesthetics and things like that. Anyway, wow, it just closes it for you. It's like it's like, yeah, we know you need time to like digest our little cutesy little VN project. You know what it is? I think I feel like a little bit insulted. That's the thing. I think I feel a little bit insulted by the developers and the writers for for this title, and I mean that in the most positive, generally positive way possible, I guess. It brings to mind the phrase of like insulting the reader or not insulting the reader, and yeah, I like it. I think maybe it is just in comparison to a lot of other things I've been reading. Not that I'm like trying to. I think there is just a time and place for stuff, and there are times where I feel like I want to. I don't want to use the term indulge, but I guess indulge a little bit in just like random things that I kind of find kind of fun or neat that I don't have to like put a lot of active thought into. And then there are titles sometimes or urges sometimes where I feel like I need to like step back a little bit and take a sort of like zoomed out lens of things, so to speak, even though I don't think it's like quite entirely like that. I think this project that they're doing is very very much what I was looking for, or what I've been probably subconsciously looking for recently. Yeah, very very impressed so far. I'm excited to continue and read along in the next part.